And we started building externally, and there is luck once that. There was Marchetti, one of the first people with whom he begins to collaborate. The two who immediately believed him were Giorgio Armani and Renzo Rosso. And I remember that he threw them. Especially through Renzo, because Renzo had not only invested in having them build the e-commerce platform, so technology and technology management, but had invested in the moles in the shares. So he was not a shareholder, and in fact then brought it to the quotation then we initially read sold. Had used the Hux platform to sell them in. Sold because from there, Warn however Yux helped him. Yux was a stock site. There was one stockist online, that is. Instead of selling the goods, our drummers are saberists to stockists. That in the end they bought it so much by the kilo, sold it in distributions. Sisters not qualified. Yux's idea was to sell within a decent container and make a product that actually was and it was necessary to hide in a moment of communication of sale that would not then affect the value of the brand, because we always remember when we go to sell at a discount old seasons, we are still selling the old seasons. And so I mean, we know very well that the time factor is the most decisive one in life. We figured this out anyway after the sale of those goods, unless it was too much. Continues. Of a magnitude too big. But you know, if you have too much stock, functions means that it does not work regardless, so it's a happy problem. Then we realized that in reality stuff could have been not only a time when you went to free cash because then the stock is cash, but also additional communication, where when we sold the stock, there were already banners with the possibility of going to buy the new collection that he did when you have the sales. You in August you have sales, yes, in reality there is already with the new collection. So I have attracted you, for I attract you with 60% sales in August. And throw you into that you maybe buy because you are buying for items at €500 and then buy 1 to 400 of the new season. Go home with 5 items at €900 because and then 6. You remix. So to answer your question, if we started 20-heartedly with with our sites, where we inserted within a site that was purely determined by the story of the brand's history. So there was a small description dedicated to e-commerce. To today, if you open the sites is fashion, our exclusively e-commerce sites. And as I told you before, the storytelling of the company, you do it through social channels, talking about social networks at one point. Then we will come to this last phase, where social is becoming e-commerce. Where did our chat come from? Our provocation. We have a common thought and will explore later, at some point, become the holders of storytelling. So the communication, yes, in the sites. Starting to sell. You need one space to vent what brands did in the fashion shows. That told daily has not changed. Even now that you bring me to mind, you make me think of it. The sites, our sites are ours. Direct to our landing pages. Continue not to advertise and continue not to do so. We are not communicating the brand in any way, or tell her stories about the brand that were made, happened. All we put there was at the beginning some that were the purest. You went on the site, the landing. Then there was the campaign. The campaign in very high resolution. Under it was written Autumn Winter 22. You would crush and it would come up some small selection of. It's as if social media has given us that tool that we missed, or that we were afraid to create or use, in order to communicate the brand and I must say that at first, was used, even quite improperly. Or even funny. Because you saw hallucinating things. Today they have become good also because today because it is as if the channels, even if the internet beat Tony barrier, we know no. And you realize this when you initially, maybe not 6 and do the son of yes, but we do stuff on the internet and open the site, and once open after a week 0. Then start communicating then start spending a lot of money. You say fuck. Maybe I was right when he said that e-commerce is 6 less than a drop in the ocean. Yes. I say if I always do this metaphor, I say when I open a website, imagine taking a drop, throw it into the ocean. Now who sees it? Nobody, And so I mean isn't it? In the Billy of Evil Sankaram, this one I assign it to me. And therefore de facto the situation is exactly this. No. And it's nice to be able to have. At the end of the fair creativity, we must never forget that it is the founding value of our industry. And at some point, when you have a lot of money to manage, you have a lot of money to make, lots of money to maintain, and many people to relate on why you make or don't make money. In French they say you shit yourself, no ha. And yet this is not. It is not forbidden even to minors under 14 years old. You can say when you shit yourself, stop being creative. And when you stop being creative, stop doing your business. And then it depends on the strength of the brand you have it or inherited, of why you remain afloat for several years or less, but inexorably if you stop doing your job within that trade you die. Absolutely, and this happened to many. It happened to us too. When then I took over the management of the company, because we had stopped risking, we stopped investing. And then we also talk about what everything you do today. That is 6 wanted everything. But what are the brand values? Here are the values of Brent Trussardi. What are the values? Because today it was bought by another company. I think it is disrespectful. Talk about brand values when there is another company that is making it. Those were the ones the other company bought. Every company is more or less. Venus is distinguished by values. I named Amazon has values. Know the value. One of Amazon's core values is customer. The customer is the best of all. Okay, that yes, he is just on that. However, in particular, and there is a yes, there are in Amazon that you are fooled by so many people and they don't care. Every year have like I don't know 7 trillion thrown away by shenanigans, but they don't want to contradict the customer. Things like that. Sure, you say the customer rips off Amazon. Okay, cares about Amazon, and they don't care anyway. Yes, that is clear, is well known, but it is so they stick to the value. I mean, when getting screwed is not a value. No, getting fooled is not a value, but giving more importance to the customer. Yes, in the total. I believe that SIA run me if I make a mistake. That is, or if you see me if I'm subjective wrong. Reality. That's drugs. That for me is drugs. But that's okay. Also because that's why that company burned cash for decades. Despite the stock going well on the stock exchange. Then when the company started doing well on the stock exchange was explained bad to me then this, and now Vaba has stabilized. But the Germans then that was a value. No, that is, well, good or bad, as we said, it's all subjective. The customer, and he wanted the one about losses. The shenanigans. If you can afford to do it, it fits, but is not a value that I would pursue. But it is a value. Just those were those of Trussardi before the passage. But explain to me a moment the company as. But for us the most important thing at the time, where then there was the boom, was the quality of the product. We had a product that makes you see more than value. I talk about codes. For me, value is something you express. Especially the value is NATO mainly on technology companies who needed to customize on something that was distant, specialized by people. Number because you sell a mechanical product, which also that doesn't create you, one that didn't create you at the time. How can I say an emotion? As strong as an iconographic product as it could be. An accessory, no. So the company for me talks about codes. No, the codes of a leather goods company were mainly, well, come on, we used to call it effortless. Effortless, elegance, elegance. So we had a type. A product type, a type of communication, a type of positioning that was not shouted. Was not how can I say? Was not shouted. As maybe others we were more underwhelming, no, and then there was the great, that instead a family value. The family at the center of entrepreneurial activity. In fact, I started by modeling at 5 years old for the Trussardi Junior campaign. And I ended up doing it at 25 years old. So in the Trussardi family, the family was at the center. Yes, the Trussardi family, which was the family that then also communicated what was the value of union of Italianity. Because the perfect esterification of what is Italianity is family. There is none, and therefore the value of the family. Then there were the codes that were applied to the product. Because today you can make the most beautiful bag in the world, but if he doesn't talk about the codes of your brand, you will never sell it. Very interesting. According to you, these codes are born premeditated, or are born with time. If both are valid over time, both. Premeditation must always be there. If, however, there is not the good one, the first one does not exist, which is what it is. We continue the talk of, no, you said that to find the details. Listen, tell me a moment. This company, no, when you were a child already, when you were doing commercials, everything else. I think you entered the company. I don't think you said. In short, you entered the company and you saw it every day. No, even if your dad spoke little, maybe. But you saw the company. I ask you, what it was like to see this company full of people. How it is, I describe. Paint me in the company as time was when. Early 90s, when you were a boy. No, you know, then I remember it little in a not vivid way, and therefore very rarefied, but the concept is that. Well, there is the company. Then there was a painful part. That was near, and there was a part more of communication, etc. that he was in the land. The company is made, that is when you 6.0. You still don't have the perception of the company's intangible. So we had. For me, the company was the people. We identified the people I saw. There were 4 or 5 cheap hippo within the company, and for me they were the ones that represented. The hinges. Then you know, unfortunately, I am the A. Mine, how do you say? The age of lasted very little for me. So the perceptions, abstract and adolescent perceptions, I have had very few. And what happened when your daddy passed away? When you were 15 years old? How the thing was wanted, in the sense. How it passed. Many times companies, when there is no. In short, who created if there is no structure of a certain type. Then understood VAF and other ways though. When you were 15 anyway. Sardinians continued no, and how. That is how the passage happened, how it went there. When daddy passed away, well, instead we were for brothers anyway. My brother and sister were there, who then took in hand, dividing them be what the activities used to be. The company fortunately was fairly managed. There were also cash flows entering from activities of license renewal and anything else that came from activities not directly controlled, direct business management on our part. And so this meant that the company, that time was also created to make sure there was an end over, does not intervene in, obviously a programmed, but in a traumatic way. So you had your shoulders covered from other cash flows that allowed to stay a little quieter. Yes, one happiness, one is osation. But yes, on a panoramic level, I clearly didn't want to go into detail, of which I would ask you what were the other sources of income. The other sources of Royal Tile? We have on licenses of different products. White shoes, tennis racket, watches, golf bags. Several products. At the time there were many licenses. Now you tend to do a lot less, or you bring home the business model or closes to prevent the brand from being. You anticipated the next question to try to create the best strategy to go to market. And even maybe based on how the market changes. There are some fixed points, crucial moments for you during the year. How it works, well, then I tell you what we are doing now. That may be up on. I can be more pragmatic and correct. We are redetermining what has been the update in distraction, which made it a company Trussardi, a successful in the 60s and 70s at the time of Nicola Trussardi. That is of my father, who is the one who really did the company the Leviero brand, and that he is the one who gave the strong identity to this group. And we are trying to figure it out every day because it is really an exercise. Exhausting must be exhausting, must almost. Corrode know this exercise, understand that equipment of disruption, how to transport it to today, but not equal in modernity, and this is the difficulty. Why do trends change? Because it changes the mindset, because everything changes. So let's say you collect them anyway. In our sector, You make them every 6 months. Well, okay, every 6 months the fall-winter seasons come out. Then there are the so-called drop no, where you every tot go to insert some product inside your points of sale, in short of your distribution. But anyway. 6. Always child of seasonality. Also because the moments of presentation fashion weeks. Of fashion weeks, excuse me, I'm on January, February, June, September, so you are there that show. Are those moments of exact launch or direction still have the importance they had before? These moments, the various parades, offices, or have less weight than before? But I think the problem, or the cool. Excuse me, the term of fashion, the technical term of fashion, the fashion cool SIA. Adding up the tools. Do not change, okay? My father always said that fashion is to use art at 360 degrees, but by art he also meant the technique. That is, if you have Instagram, is not that you do not make more billboards in the street, or you don't do the gender page anymore, you have to do Instagram, plus the page on the Facebook menu, etc., etc. So in fashion things add up, okay? So it has its own camera. Always very important, because there is an industry to which we must refer. Like everyone else know, if there is a union of metalworkers, we have our own sort of our union. Ketty Mayer in English. Maybe it is better because the union seems of insiders of DDDD publishers, of newspaper editors. In short, people who always help you in this mission of yours to be relevant. No, okay, and this is very important, the fashion ecosystem of insiders, exact. So for me, the fashion weeks, images of very important events, where the whole world is concentrated in one point, where you can prove what it is. Your clear brand coolness. You know, you used to make me think to this video that continues to shoot Steve Jobs. Historical, where he in shorts and slipper returns to Apple after it was kicked out and makes the historic presentation to explain what their communication strategy will be. And in the end you say there are only 2 questions for a brand: who we are and what our values are. Know what we fight for. And ago at the time, it was 20 years ago, 30 years ago. I have already observed this presentation set an example of Nike that said these guys sell shoes. And when you see Nike, however, you realize that they don't talk about the solace of the specifications. They only talk about the great athletes. They honor the sport, make great athletes, ennoble the product, and therefore, and remainder though, is exhausting, because at the end of the day you always return to G6. What are your values without being distracted? No, by all the stuff you do. I believe that the game has always been the one. Today is even more prophesied because there repeat many contaminations. No, but you see, we were talking about Louis Vuitton. Can afford to do what he wants because it has such a recognizable product, which is monogram. No such thing that he takes a person, takes a creative specific moment and entrusts him with a project, a vamp ruly of that thing there. So the connector element is the clear one. Ruffini, for example, that in my opinion is one of the best today. A Italian fashion. And he did this gin news, where it actually brings together so many things that could also clash with each other. In reality, it is so strong, the element of conjunction, which is the down jacket, which is the Moncler. Among others, one of the few brands where you associate the brand to the category IBIC. Give me a BIC, which means give me a BIC. Let's go get the Moncler. That is the down jacket. So already there's 6 arrived. More. There is very well this concept of being able to have an element of continuity, of conjunction so strong, so you can afford it without losing your identity. Of A to contaminate is incredible how often we forget how even companies that have a very strong brand continue to invest in. Always make brand relevant. Read Google. I mean, has no problem branding Werner. Anyone knows it quite a bit. Have now launched their new brand campaign. Let you know that I'm there. I'm crazy you. Coca-Cola, I will always remember I was a child. In my head I do not know, 10 years, 11 years. And I was seeing these Coca-Cola commercials. That continued to there was a devastating bombing, no. And I wondered, but how come Coca-Cola? And asked my father why Coca-Cola. I mean no, are you right? Also has the distribution, so it doesn't even the problem of being cut off at some point from someone. No, how come? And he told me because otherwise they die. So dry, no, me father one very fast, very. Otherwise they die. And in the end, in my opinion, it is true because Bezos also said it in an interruption. Always says it, that my company is a company that is that today as it is can last 5 years. No, if I don't do things in 5 years dies, no the cycle. The life cycle of an average company is now 10 years old. 12 years we didn't talk about these. Then fashion technology teacher. In my opinion, it is even shorter. In fashion, if you are not ready every 3 years, questioning what you're doing. But not the values, because that is the difficult one. That is what I am trying to convey to you. Is that that is, the value theme must always remain the one. No, that is Trussardi is. It's faultless elegance, it always has been. At a time when streetwear sportswear is being sold, no. You no longer sell the elegant shoe, but you sell the mask. Trussardi must contextualize himself without losing its roots. Otherwise you lose happiness. It's not like your long-term customers don't buy you anymore. But not 6 cooler. Clear, and even internally you lose your identity. You don't know which way to go because anymore. Once upon a time that reverse of the metal fashion of the moment. If instead you remain firm on the values, has contextualized business model. Tell me a little bit about how the business model works. In this area, I am very curious. Assuming that you six a company that works yes 6. The difference between a few years ago 6 and always today, in the sales campaign, always in the video campaign, between several there of different sales channels, with the indirect direct failures, then postponing with fail direct store. Bite us. In short, we put everything in it. The business model is a model where substantially is not is. Depends is not classic for every company though. If you 6 aim to a company today, 6 a company that started today 5 years and that you had incredible success. Fashion, if there are several that were born so. Today a fashion company is mainly marketing, communication, and marketing style communication. Everything else the contract. So the model of you can do this office tomorrow morning. In this office, you can put a good creative director who must also be the head of communication, because if you see the products are all the same. That is, this dress make you 100 different suits. You can make it to measure, so go from the various laboratory and what else. Or you can buy it from a brand compared to another. What is the difference? What the brand communicates to you. That is the mask that you have, and the desire to spend a certain type of more money, capital less, for that brand, because it gives you an emotionality that gives you a higher emotional burden than that of another brand. Because in the end, I repeat, the fabrics are if mainly in the tailor's shop. In the dress there are 4 or 5 people who make fabrics in the world. In a certain are 4 or 5 okay. From here they plain, etc, etc. So this dress I make, you do the same by others. I do not know if Martorana would be. I agree with you because we did Martorana. We interviewed. Maybe yes, but I understand what you are saying. My question is, let's put it like this. We put the case that if you listen to someone who wants to create a fashion brand, I was telling you earlier, you would recommend at the fashion level a business from which to start, what to do. You told me, if I'm not wrong now, all marketing. The rest we buy externally, maybe providing for. But you must have an idea. Then if you talk about a company that works today, a company where you have to build a collection. You build the collection in 5-6 months from the time. Even in something more, if 6 a brand of a certain from time, the moment you project it. So from that moment, when the creatives draw the drawing, industrialized comes from a normal design of your technical design, to which the projects make the sampler VA. In this room are made purchases. In the medical campaign that lasts for 2 to 3 months, seasonality, and products are purchased from your stores, where you generally make a master order. The master, what is then given to all others, because you must seek to condense what is non-fractional sale Because they already sell 1 million references. Plus you take a big risk. Because when you buy products in the country, sell purchases months before they are, which are then deliberated in the store. So you make a bold, you make a darkness. Place an order in the several months on which you need to cover up. Or use the cash you have anyway to cover purchases, and then you have to sell that. You must also sell it. Certainly the obsolescence of our product is very high. Because in 3 seasons, AE becomes stock. Goes all around, reaches 90% off, and then VA in outlets. Then it depends, there are luxury brands that don't even give discounts, have no balances, have no outlet, and but I wouldn't talk about those. I would talk about there are small excellences. Yes, there are outliers. You can discuss an outlier. One can say I want to do that, but that, you can do it. 6 more is even more a blue ocean. No, but actually if one were to leave today, should start with, depends on whether he is an entrepreneur, because in the end, once upon a time brands started with creatives, and it was always a Bonobio. There was the creative, and then there was the entrepreneur, who may have been the creative's boyfriend. Then there is a yes. Then with Pierre Bergé Armani with Leo. H. Valentine with Giametti. Prada with Patelli. We saw a pair. The Maccolo calls the visionary, and the visionary maybe was the creator, the designer, and instead the supplement was the entrepreneur that put on the field everything that the other, or pulling for the jacket, reciprocally. No, because, but it is still always a binomial, and it's always like a, in the in the I always say, also to my mind I always say, a fashion company is like a triangle, a scaling triangle. I will not equilatero, where there are the 3 sides that are style, the commercial, and marketing. No. Then it is clear that you have to press, you have to define what is the how do you say that the hypotenuse so the longest angle, the longest corner, excuse me, the side. And second thing must be, marketing depends on the company. There is a company that if it refers to Westfood is all style, is Armani, is more commercial. Okay, depends on the company, and here when. In a company we leave the big brands alone. Armani type no. Prada, Gucci, all others, but in one company. Good, that healthy in the industry. Media in the sector. That does well, or optimized pros teams. That does well at the marketing stock level. Everything else. What is an EB from a margin? Let's call it the middle margin. In general then today are much lower though. I'll give you an example. There is Elizabeth Frank. That no, I don't want to say, but I think that in the last year made 200 million with almost 30% EBITDA. 25–30% EBITDA historical figures, but the average is 15%. Among other things, we want to interview because we are fans. My wife, big fan of Elizabeth Frank. Absolutely. I ask you another thing we are? We also asked in another. A story always related to the sector. Remember that every season you choose colors. No, there is a color that predominates on the market, and it seems that you have it in fashion. This from completely unrelated to the thing I'm asking from. It's not like that anymore. A super you define, no, now I'm okay. But it is not more so, but a po I see it still. That is when it was so I anyway now. What difference are there as brand marketing product? What is the most important thing to achieve great results in the company? Is NATO first, the egg or the hen? Together. Surely some scientist would give you the answer. But the theme is on the philosophical or factual answer. In short, the most practical one to give. No matter which one is NATO, it matters that they are both. Then I also add this one that it is also important the weight you give to one or the other. That is, I translate this into a fashion company. There are three horses, the sides of a triangle. Innovations that are fundamental. Product style merchandising, that is, if you 6A service company, merchandising is your fundamental thing, because the more boxes you go to fill with product, plus you 6 of service, and therefore more the customer who perceives you. Where do I go to buy everything? Or anyway, I'll fix my wardrobe, and then I go to buy most products, etc. elsewhere. Then merchandising is essential. If 6A hyper fashion company, where the designer can change you, growth, or the failure of your entrepreneurial project, then the style. Happiness is the most important part. If you have a company that how can I put it, has as the main variable commercial activity, i.e., I have to sell products that are reassuring for my client who buys me. Not because I have the cool stylist, not because I go inside and find it all, but because it gives me those products that are enough not to make me feel age or retro or thin. But they also have a very good dose of reassurance.